Well, that was a fun story.
Mm-hmm.
There were some other stories this year, and we don't have to get into all of them, but there were some emotional stories and not so happy stories.
Very definitely. You know, the one that sticks out in my mind, Jack, is the day that it was discovered there were 26 dead or dying dogs left in a field. And you know, the emotion involved in a story like that is tremendous because of how people feel about their pets and the outpouring and the actual anger. It's been a while since I've seen, if ever, pickets at City Hall during the preliminary hearings of the people who were charged with this crime. People were really upset about this, really angry. And it's a very emotional story, and that continues to work its way through the legal system. You know, I'm not a pet owner, but I certainly understand that kind of feeling that people had. Terrible, gruesome discovery. That sticks out in my mind as a very emotional story.
Another one, we talked about the rains and their effect on the construction and the groundwater. Also had a tornado or two, hit Kearney, really impacted Kearney, jumped over Grand Island and hit Aurora,
Right.
ripped up some buildings and some farmhouses out there. And we saw a big effect of the effect on Kearney, actually indirectly or directly giving a boost to Grand Island when a rodeo that was supposed to be at the Kearney fairgrounds that was demolished came to the Heartland Event
Right.
Center in Grand Island. So their loss, our gain, but still a lot of people have suffered from that tornado.
I was driving to Lincoln the day after that tornado, and it was the damage at Aurora, at the interchange and then north into town was remarkable. And you can still see, I mean, the effects of some of that damage today. But you know, the people of Aurora were very resilient. You know, they were up and running right away and helping each other, which is, you know, common for Nebraskans to look out for one another. But it was a pretty serious storm season in Nebraska.
Aurora also in the news in a not so fun way. The downtown fire that destroyed their Fidelity building,
Right.
a building that stood for a long
Landmark.
time.
Mm-hmm.
And the two teenagers that were arrested for arson have been charged and some things done with them. Not a very fun day for some people in Aurora.
No.
Some other stories, we mentioned the pet lovers and the animal lovers. This is one that we really haven't talked much about, but this was the year that we had the big contract dispute with the animal control
Mm-hmm.
with the Humane Society. Got a lot of people emotional about that issue, and the city's still, you know, getting through that. Another issue with people working out or not working was when the Swift plant had a problem with people walking off because of the holiday of Ramadan.
Right, the Muslims, the Somali Muslims, right. Big story, again, national press, you know, wanted to know what was going on in Nebraska. Interesting story, I think, the dynamic of different immigrant groups who've come to this country to try to better their lives, you know, kind of at odds with each other over fairness issues, you know. Is it fair for one person to have a different shift, you know, because of his or her religious beliefs versus another person? You know, kind of a basic policy decision that has to be made.
It's the hotbed.
It really is.
Look at Swift, and it's this hotbed of Grand Island.
Yeah.
Grand Island is a melting pot. Swift is the melting
Yeah.
pot of Grand Island.
Yeah, and in a diverse city, this, you know, these kind of dynamics are going to happen all the time. You know, I think one thing that is interesting that they've since formed, as I understand it, a type of a council or a group that meets, and there are people from different, you know, immigrant groups and ethnic groups and ages and shifts at Swift to try to anticipate these issues. And, you know, I would think that that would be smart for a business, because the bottom line is that for 2 into 3 days, no one worked. And that can't be good for a business who works on short margins and who needs, you know, those shifts to be moving all the time, to be moving and working. So, you know, heading those things off requires a little study, a little anticipation, and now they have a little experience in their back pocket. It wasn't always a pleasant experience, but they have the experience of what happens when those dynamics kind of clash with each other.
One more thing we need to discuss. We talked a lot about things on our little list here, decisions that were made. Some of them people didn't have a choice in, some of them were acts of God, some of them were people arguing about God, but some of them we did have a choice in.
We did.
And that was the big elections of 2008, including, for the first time ever in Nebraska, caucus. Brought a lot of excitement, What did you think about the effect of the caucus?
Well, in terms of numbers, not that many people participated, but enough that I think what happened, there was a groundswell of interest again in the political process at the presidential level. For years, Nebraskans have voted, you know, in the primaries. They've done the constitutional duty. But I don't think they really felt as though we really had a say. It was either decided prior to that or nobody really paid attention to us because we just don't have the population. But it kind of got people interested again. And, you know, caucusing, I didn't get to go, but I did a column, a piece on a young woman who did that. And from what she described and what I heard from other people, caucusing is really democracy kind of at its, you know, at its level best. Obviously, there's some issues, you know, not everybody can get there and those types of things. But, you know, the end result then is that Nebraska, in its kind of unique system, I mean, Maine also can split its electoral votes. District 2 in Omaha cast their electoral vote for Barack Obama. And so very Republican Nebraska had one Democratic vote. So, you know, if you put those two things together, it seems to me that we really, Nebraska kind of became a player, if you will, in presidential politics, even if it's that one vote. I think it's gained interest. So I hope that they keep the process. I think it worked, and I think more people will be involved next time if they go ahead and do the caucusing.
One of the funny things about the whole situation with the caucus, Nebraska Democratic Party thinking, hey, we get earlier in the process, like many states tried to do this time, they get more attention. They have the caucus early, in February, I believe.
Yeah, it was in February.
No candidates came. I think Hillary's daughter came, Chelsea came to the area, but didn't get a huge amount of attention. Had they then voted when they were supposed to, when the Republicans had their primary, well, for the first time in my lifetime, the Democratic nomination was still up in the air.
Exactly.
They probably would have had more attention put on Nebraska to vote between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama if they'd had it in May when they normally do, because at that point it was still really undecided, or becoming more decided, but it was still in question. And then, of course, no one came to Nebraska until the official big election, in which, as you mentioned, part of Nebraska went Democrat for the first time, again, in my lifetime, first time since '68 that any votes went Democrat in Nebraska.
Yeah, since Johnson.
So it's, that was the big election of the year, and it was odd seeing Nebraska actually have something in question for that. A lot of little races around here, nothing that really stuck out as this is the big thing as far as one candidate or the other. Mike Glore did win the district here in Grand Island.
Fluoride was defeated again, and the operative word there is again. We every time it comes up, every dentist in the world lines up and says we need to do this. And right after that is defeated. I don't know how many more times we can bring this question up.
I think people in Grand Island are anti-dentite.
Yeah, you think so? Kramer was their campaign manager.
I think so.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know if it's going to come up again. It was, it was easily defeated, and this question's been on the ballot now several times, and it's the same argument over and over again. Both sides present science, so they say, and so I'm not sure. I listened to my dentist, but there's no, it was defeated in Grand Island, and the people have spoken, and that's the way it is.
I don't see fluoride getting in Grand Island's water anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't either. There may be other health issues that people want to put their energies behind that can, do some good as well.